How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and I hope everybody had a very good weekend. Unless you are the teams that play in New York, that reside in New York, the New York baseball teams, the Mets and the Yankees. So, we are going to talk about the Yankees, of course, because that's one of the main topics that we like to cover on this channel. But we will get into the Mets as well, because I was in attendance for one of the Mets Phillies games over the weekend. It was my first non New York baseball stadium game. I've been to Yankee Stadium, I've been to Citi Field. I have not been to any other stadium. So this was now my third stadium that I have been to in my lifetime. And I will say, again, small sample size because this is only my third stadium that I've been at, it's probably the best of the three. The best of the three. I really liked Citizens Bank Park a lot. We sat in my friends and I went with several of my friends. We went to Philly for the weekend. Got to see the Liberty Bell, and then we went to the game, of course, that same day on Saturday. We sat in the nosebleeds, first base side, and they were pretty good seats. You got to see the entirety of the field. And, we had a nice time. And thankfully we went to a night game, because if we went to a day game, I mean, the weather now has been brutal in terms of, getting hot now. Going to have to, get into my pool now, because now we're in the summer. So, after a very brutal winter, now we're in for a brutal summer because it is really hot. So, thankfully we were at a night game, dealt with the heat until the sun went down, past 8 o'clock. And we got to see, the Mets end their losing streak. Because like the Yankees, the Mets have also been scuffling. They've been losing games. They got swept in Atlanta. House of horrors for them. Then you're taking on the Phillies. You lose the first game 10-2. And, my friends who were Met fans going in, I mean, jokingly, they were pessimistic going in. The Mets have lost 7 in a row at that point. And I'm thinking, the Mets are not going to lose 8 in a row. They're going to get it off the schneid. They're going to win. They should win tonight. Now, when I go to a standalone Mets game, in all my years of going to standalone Mets games, and there have been a few, they've never won. Now, the times the Mets do win is when they play the Yankees. So, except this year when I went to the Subway Series game 1, the Yankees were able to win. Now, I could potentially be going to one of the games at Citi Field. That's a work in progress. But right now, that's to be determined. So, the Mets did win, finally, on Saturday. And they hit 7 solo homers, which was I believe was an MLB record. You got 2 home runs from Brandon Nimmo. You got 2 home runs for Juan Soto. I was crying internally, as he hit both of those. The second one was an absolute nuke into the second deck, and he was just short of getting 3 because he had a double I believe in the top of the first. So he was close on that. But the second homer, it kind of gave me the vibes of. Not exactly the vibes, but somewhat like the at bat he had in the ALCS against the Guardians, where he was fouling off of pitches and you could tell he's locked in. He's got this guy. And one of my friends who was sitting behind me said the same thing. Was saying the same thing, and then of course he hits that nuke into the second deck. And Juan Soto actually has been heating up. Well, he's been putting together a good stretch. He homered yesterday. It was really the Mets' only source of offense yesterday as they lose again to the Braves. But he's starting to put it together. And you also saw Jared Young homer for the Mets. We saw Francisco Alvarez homer for the Mets. So he hit his 3rd homer of the season. He's been a disappointment. And he actually got sent down. So him and Luis Angel Acuna, they both got sent down to the minor leagues. Alvarez, yeah, he's been a disappointment. And if you could get Alvarez's bat going, I mean, he'd be a huge plus for the Mets. But with New York baseball right now, they're both struggling. With the Yankees, their offense is not hitting. But here's the thing. They got everybody back. Stanton's back. Jazz is back. This is the lineup that they have. With the Mets, and, my friends were saying it, and, of course, everybody all over the place is saying it, the Mets right now are a top-heavy lineup. The top 5, it's a very good top 5. When you have Lindor, you have Soto, you have Alonso, you have Nimmo. Well, that's only 4. But Those guys got the job done. Lindor also homered on Saturday as well. Those guys are getting it done, right? But once you get past that, you get to the middle and the bottom of the order, they're not really getting any contributions. But at least, like, for the Mets, they will be getting some reinforcements back to strengthen that lineup. They're waiting on Jesse Winker to come back. Mark Vientos, who hasn't been good defensively, and he also got off to a brutal start this year, but he was doing better. You at least are going to get those back, and that's going to lengthen out your lineup. For the Yankees, you got everybody back. They're just inconsistent right now. Because you did win the series over the weekend against the Baltimore Orioles, which you should have swept them all 3 games because the Orioles are a bad team. They're in last place. And they actually are fortunate that they won 2 out of 3 because they were losing the final game on Sunday, and then Jazz Chisholm hits a 2-run double or a 2-run triple, and the Yankees go ahead. They tack on another run, and they win that game. So Yankees could have lost another series, and they already got off to a bad start in Cincinnati last night, losing a game where they went 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. And Anthony Volpe, the bat went further than the ball for him last night because he let go of the bat twice on swing and misses. So, and I came to Volpe's defense, and I know I posted a short on TikTok and on YouTube, and a lot of people had some choice words to say about Volpe on that video because I was trying to come to the defense of a player that we have, and I feel like he's been taking a lot of heat, and it is valid. It is because he hasn't been great. He hasn't been great recently. But it's Yankees. They're continuing to struggle. You want to build momentum from the previous series, and they just didn't do that last night. And the Mets, going back to the Mets, you win on Saturday. You win 11-4, and Phillies fans were not happy. They were not happy because those Let's Go Mets chants. I was getting flashbacks to when I went to a Yankee-Met game on the 4th of July, 2021, and the Mets came back and won that game in the 9th inning. Pete Alonso hits a home run off of Chapman. You had Jose Peraza hit a bases-clearing double that could have been a grand slam. And I didn't see Chapman, but I was at the game a couple nights before that when Chapman gave up the grand slam to Jared Walsh that tied the game. Now, I was in the car listening to it on the way home because I was with my uncle and he had to work the next day, so he said, let's leave. So and there were a couple of rain delays, so the game was like, going way past, how it normally would have because there was a couple of rain delays. And I went to the game a few days later after that, after I said I wasn't going to go to another game. My friend said, hey, I got an extra ticket. You want to go? I said, you know what? I'll go. Mets end up winning that game, and I had to hear Let's Go Mets chants all throughout Yankee Stadium, and I was like, this is a low point for me as a Yankee fan. So hearing Let's Go Mets chants, I was like, Philly fans, I know how you feel because I was in that situation too once. Being at my home stadium and having to hear the opposing team fan chants just take over the entire venue. But Philly fans were not happy. They were not happy because we were surrounded by Met fans, which was good. But the Philly fans that were in our section, they were not happy. There was a little bit of chirping as they began to leave before the game ended. So, but yeah, you thought like after that it was like, okay, the Mets offense came alive. Now let's carry that momentum into the next day. No, and they also had David Peterson on the mound on Sunday, and he's been their best pitcher. But he just didn't have it. He did not have it on Sunday. And the Mets ended up losing 7-1. Their offense did absolutely nothing. They had 4 hits. They could not get to Jesus Luzardo, who pitched. Phillies put up a 5-spot and I was paying attention. I was watching the game in the bottom of the 4th. They put up a 5-spot. Schwarber hit a home run. And he almost hit a home run at the game we were at. But it was just foul. And the one disappointing thing about being at the game on Saturday at Citizens Bank Park was that we didn't get to see, well, I know Met fans didn't want to see it, but I wanted to see the bell go off when the Phillies hit a home run, but nobody hit a home run. So, but Schwarber hit a home run to dead center. It was just not a good series for the Mets, and it just has not been a good stretch for them. They're 1-9 now in their last 10 games. Now, after losing last night, you're down 3-0. Juan Soto hits a 2-run homer, only source of offense. The Braves own the Mets. It's like similar to what the Red Sox and the Yankees. Red Sox recently, they've owned the Yankees. The Braves own the Mets. And the Braves, they're under 500. Right now, they're 36-41. They're 10.5 games out in the NL East. And like with the Red Sox, they were at least within striking distance of a wild card and of they're 6 games out of the division right now, so they're not out of reach. But then they just go and they trade Devers, and you're like, what are they doing? But the Yankees breathed life into the Red Sox. The Mets, I mean, if the Braves continue their momentum, if they sweep the Mets again, and then they go on a run, well, now the Mets just gave life to the Braves. And now that's another team you got to deal with. The Phillies, they're not 100% right now. They got injuries to their rotation. There's no Bryce Harper. So they're going to get those guys back at some point. The Braves, it's just what a rough start they've gotten off to. But since Ronald Acuna's come back, he's been a hitting machine. It's just right now it's tough for the Mets. And let's see what happens when these teams meet up next week for the Subway Series, because somebody's going to have to win those games. Somebody's going to have to win. So, it's just not looking good right now for New York baseball at all. But now let's kind of switch back over to the Yankees. So, yeah, it was a great weekend in Philly. Had a lot of fun. Citizens Bank Park, beautiful ballpark. So that's one that is off the list now. So now next year, we're now going to go to a Yankees away game. That's the plan. So we're trying to figure out what that is going to be. I threw some ones out there. I said, because the Yankees are going to be on the West Coast next year. For a couple of National League teams, you got the Padres and also they're going to be out, by the Bay against the Giants. So look, I'm not a big guy when it comes to taking long flights. Not a big flying guy when it comes to getting on planes. Look, I'll deal with it, but I don't particularly like flying, and this will be a cross country trip. But to see those ballparks, I would be down to do that next year. But again, that's in the very, very early stages of planning. But yeah, great weekend out in Philly. And at least we could say, for my friends who are Met fans that are watching this or listening to this, we got to see the Mets at least win a baseball game. So they got to figure things out. And then they also are going to have Frankie Montas. I think he's starting tonight. I really don't think he's going to be that good for them. He wasn't doing good in his rehab starts. But you got Senga and Minaya still on the shelf. Senga recently got hurt, but they should hopefully be back at some point. But yeah, Frankie Montas is going tonight for the Mets against Spencer Strider. So let's see if the Mets can win a baseball game. And for the Yankees, look, they won the series over the weekend against the Orioles. They did drop Friday night's game with Max Fried on the mound. Didn't have his best stuff. Yankees were up 3-2. They gave up a run in the 6th inning, and then they gave up 2 runs in the 8th inning, and they lose that game. But they had a pretty good win on Saturday, and you had Clark Schmidt have one of his best outings of the season, if not his best outing of the season. He has been very good as of late. He's got his ERA under 3 now. It's at 2.84. But you had home runs from Trent Grisham and Ben Rice and J.C. Escara. Volpe went the opposite way, a porch job homer, and the Yankees won 9-0. Now, a bit of a controversy from that game is that Aaron Boone took out Clark Schmidt because he was pitching a no-hitter, and he was at 103 pitches, and then the Yankees put in J.T. Brubaker, who they've been talking up for the last couple of years now, and he's dealt with several different injuries, and it's prevented him from getting back on the mound. Finally gets on the mound, and actually he had a scoreless outing, pitched 2 very good innings, and the Yankees won the game. However, the Yankees lost the no-hitter. They could have had a combined no-hitter. He gives up a bloop single to, of course, out of all people, Gary Sanchez, and they lose a no-hitter, and everybody is killing Aaron Boone. How could they take out Clark Schmidt? Why did they put in this guy? The Yankees made the right move. The Yankees made the right move taking out Clark Schmidt. Now, what did you expect Boone to do? He was going to put in his high-leverage relievers. He was going to put in Luke Weaver, who actually, made his return from the IL, and, he gave up a home run, and everybody was killing Boone for that. Why are you putting a guy in that just came off the IL? Well, here's the thing. Had Boone not have done that, and they put in somebody else, and they end up giving up a run and blowing the lead, you would have said, why did Luke Weaver not get put in the game? So it was a lose-lose situation for Boone there. But why would he put in their high leverage relievers when they're up 9-0? They're up 9-0. And had Clark Schmidt had given up one hit prior to being taken out of the game, JT Brubaker would have been put in the game anyways. It was a 9-0 game. There's no reason to put in your high leverage relievers, even if there's a no-hitter on the line. I'm sorry. And JT Brubaker, to his credit, he got the pitch to strike out Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez clearly swung the bat. But the umpires, once again, are not good at their jobs. They say he doesn't go. And then, surely enough, Gary Sanchez pokes one out to left field for a base hit. And that was the no-hitter. And that was the only hit the Yankees gave up. But I do not blame Boone one bit for taking out Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt is a guy that typically does not go this deep into games. And he was at 103 pitches. And here's the other thing too, everybody. The Yankees right now are very thin in their rotation. The guy that they had pitching last night, Winans, he was there for he was pitching last night because the Yankees don't have a lot of options right now. Even their depth is getting hurt. Ryan Yarbrough, he's on the IL. So we got to be. You also, I know people get annoyed at being too cautious with their players. The Yankees can't afford more injuries, especially to their pitching staff. We are still waiting on Luis Gil to come back. He's slowly but surely making his way back. But he's not coming back till the end of July at the earliest. The latest is sometime in August. And now you got Yarbrough hurt. So the Yankees have to be cautious with their guys. And you don't want to push a guy like Clark Schmidt that hasn't, he hasn't thrown that many. I mean, you're making him throw more than 100 pitches. You get him up to 110, 115. I mean, that's really pushing it for a guy like him. I know Garrett Cole pitched, what was it, like 100, almost 130 pitches back in 2020. Hey, another 2021 reference. A few years, back in 2021 against the Astros, he went the distance. And the Yankees won 1-0. You could do that with a guy like him. With Clark Schmidt, I'm not so sure. I guess I might be in the minority. I know John Boy Media was getting killed over it because they were defending the move that Boone made. I'm with them. I'm sorry. I'm with them. I think they made the right decision. Yankees are up 9-0. I mean, guys passed 100 pitches. I mean, people have thrown combined no-hitters before, everybody. And JT Brubaker did a good job. He got the pitch. I mean, if you want to blame anybody, you blame the umpire because the umpire missed a call. That's who you should be blaming. Don't blame Aaron Boone. Don't blame JT Brubaker. Blame the umpire because JT Brubaker got Gary Sanchez out. So, now I'm going to get called a Boone apologist. But it's true, though. And again, I mean, he can't win in certain situations. He just can't. Because then, you know what happens? You leave Clark Schmidt in, and then what happens when, his next start, he gets hurt or something? Or he puts together a stretch of games where he just is not pitching well. Then it's like, oh, well, he left him in too long on the no-hitter. Look at what happened to Johan Santana after he threw his no-hitter. He was never the same. Now, he was older than, Clark Schmidt is right now. But, and look, I know there's people out there, look, back in the old days, they pitched till their arm fell off. I get it. Different times now. But I think that, again, the Yankees are thin right now with their pitching staff. They can't afford guys getting hurt. We can't lose Clark Schmidt. He is a valuable piece in this rotation. It is right now, as I'm recording this, is June 24th. The game was on Saturday, same as the Met Philly game that I was at. We're not wasting guys in June. June 21st, we are not wasting guys. We are not. We're not doing that. Not that we're wasting guys, but you know what I'm trying to say. So, I get it. We'd like to have seen a no hitter, absolutely. But look, the win is more important. Players' health is more important. I'm sorry. Maybe if you would have asked me this 10 years ago, I probably would have said, yeah, this is all Boone's fault. But listen, I've changed over the years, so I have no problem with that. But the Yankees got the win, and then they won the game on Sunday. A couple of things from that game. So Jazz Chisholm, not his fault, incidental contact, knocked the catcher out of the game for the Orioles. And Gary Sanchez was, their backup catcher because Adley Rutschman is now on the IL. So Gary Sanchez basically was the third catcher. And then if Gary Sanchez got hurt, they'd have no catcher. So that was early on in the game. Jazz rounding third. He scored on a run there. Yankees, Will Warren actually pitched well after, the first inning. You thought the Yankees were going to get blown out. He gave up 2 runs in the first inning. But those were the only runs the Orioles scored. But yeah, Yankees got a run with Chisholm scoring on the DJ LeMahieu single, and then they put up a 3-spot in the bottom of the 8th. And I just was not feeling good with this game. I thought the Yankees were going to lose, but Jazz hit a 2-run double, ended up on third, make it 3-2, and then LeMahieu, a fielder's choice, Jazz ended up scoring to make it 4-2. But big performances out of Jazz and Luis Cruz. I don't know why I said Luis Cruz. Fernando Cruz. Remember Luis Cruz? But Fernando Cruz. So he comes in a tough spot. There's traffic on the bases, and it looked like the Orioles were going to, put up more runs here, and then Yankees probably end up losing. But he ends up striking out the side and getting out of it. So credit to him. Bullpen did a very good job. Will Warren got into the 7th inning. Yankees bullpen put up 2 2/3 innings of scoreless baseball. Devin Williams got the save. His ERA is close to being below 5 now. But credit to Fernando Cruz. And I know Fernando Cruz, he's kind of one of those guys in the bullpen that frustrates you a little bit. Because he's got great stuff. He's got swing and miss stuff. But the walks kill him. Traffic, he puts a lot of traffic on the bases at times. But then there are times, like the other day, where he works out of it. So he's been a valuable piece in that bullpen for the Yankees and getting him back because he was on the IL too. But he's looked better. Loizaca's looked better. So, and now they got Luke Weaver back. You got Devin Williams. But the Yankees could use another arm in the bullpen. I think that's what they're going to end up doing is going out and getting another one. But yeah, the Yankees took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles. And then last night, really didn't get a chance to watch the game because I was out. Aaron Judge hits his 28th homer of the season, and now in the top of the first inning, and that's the only run the Yankees scored in the entire game. 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position last night. Not great. Anthony Volpe, once again, didn't make a good defensive play on a ground ball. He took a weird bounce. He backed up on it rather than attacking the baseball. That's what I'm seeing a lot on social media. He doesn't attack the baseball. He has to attack it more. He backs up a lot. So makes it the throw even tougher for himself. Ends up being a bad throw. Run ends up scoring. That was the 6th run of the game for the Reds. But yeah, the Yankees 13 strikeouts last night. 3 strikeouts of Stanton. 3 strikeouts of Jazz. We saw bad swing and misses from Stanton. Two strikeouts for Goldschmidt. He was 0 for 5 on the night. His OPS is now under 800. He's batting under 300. So that wall that we talked about that Goldschmidt is going to eventually hit, well, it's hit. Goldschmidt has not been great as of late offensively. He has definitely slowed down. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't pick it back up. But, yeah, in his last 15 games, he's batting 173, a 246 on-base percentage, a 269 slugging. Last 7 games, 087, 125 on-base percentage, 261 slugging. Not great. He is 2 for his last 23 to make that an 87 batting average. And then I think I clicked out of it. He's 9 of 52 9 for his last 52. It's not good. Anthony Volpe 0 for 4 last night. Austin Wells was 1 for 4. Dominguez had a couple of hits. Young guys are just not really doing anything right now. Dominguez, I mean, ever since I think it was the walk-off homer, which feels like forever ago, he has not homered. I was expecting better power numbers out of Dominguez. A lot of people were. But yeah, the power numbers are not there. He's really not driving in a lot of runs. Only has 27 RBIs on the season. Austin Wells just inconsistent. We thought he was in for a monster season with how well he was doing in spring training. Got off to a good start. He's just been okay. And Volpe, yeah, he hasn't been great as of late either. He did homer on Saturday, but yeah, he's been rough. Last 7 games, he's 3 for his last 22, 11 for his last 55. And everybody continues to be all over him. And look, I came to his defense, and I'm gonna still back him because he is one of our players, and you still want to see this guy succeed and be the Yankees shortstop for the foreseeable future. But look, it's his job right now, but it might not be his job, a year or 2 years down the line if he keeps hitting like this. This is year 3. This is a large sample size that we have seen out of Volpe. And we know what he is. He's an average player. And he's a streaky hitter, and he could definitely put together some good stretches, but when he's off, he is really off. And it's just, and 2 swing and misses yesterday, the bat goes flying. And he's done that a lot. He's done that quite a few times. I don't know. And the defense, another error last night. The base running hasn't been great. Look, he's driven in 41 runs, which is good. But it's just, the consistency is just not there. And it's just and it's like he's regressing in other areas. Like, is he afraid to attack the baseball? Look, I was afraid to attack the baseball too. But that's why I'm not in the major leagues. That's why I'm not playing baseball. That's why I'm behind a microphone right now. Anthony Volpe is a major league baseball player. Attack the baseball because you're making it harder on yourself. But like I said, that was kind of a weird bounce. So had he attacked it, maybe he would have bounced over his head, and then it would have been an even worse looking play. But yeah, it's just not a good night for the Yankees offense. Again, 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position, really. They had traffic on the bases once again, and they don't score. I watched a little bit of the Yankees encore today. But yeah, first let's. So a tweet has the screenshots of the score bug in certain situations. So the Yankees had first and third with 1 out in the second inning. Didn't score. They had a runner at third with 1 out with Stanton up. Didn't score. They had runners at first and second, which I watched in the top of the 8th inning. You had Stanton strike out on a pitch low and outside. You had Jazz strike out trying to hit a home run. And then you had Volpe hitting a shot to the first baseman and getting out. He did put the ball in play, but, it ended up being an out. And the Yankees didn't score there. Reds tacked on a couple more runs. Yankees, though, with runners in scoring position. This is another tweet. This is from Darius Glover on X. Yankees with runners in scoring position. In April, batting .260 at a 342, 443, and a 785 OPS. Right, slugging and on-base percentage. Then in May, 248, 333, 459, 792 OPS. That was second in Major League Baseball. In April, it was 4th best in Major League Baseball. Then in June, they're batting .247, 323, 400, and then a 723 OPS. And that is 17th in Major League Baseball. It's the June swoon, everybody. It's the June swoon. And it's going to extend into July, and then maybe they figure it out after that. It's just... I don't get it. I don't get it. It is a weird coincidence. Like, this doesn't just like the Yankees don't just look at the calendar when it changes to June and they're like, all right, now we're just going to start playing like crap. No, this just happens. But it's frustrating when it does. And, like, if Judge doesn't hit, who's going to be the guy that's going to step up and carry this offense? Because right now, everybody right now at the same time is just not hitting. And they're just inconsistent. Like, you put up 9 runs on Saturday. I mean, there was no Trent Grisham. There was no Ben Rice. There was no Escara. The guys that helped you win on Saturday, nobody was playing. Now, look, Escara's the backup. Ben Rice, it's tough for him to get playing time, consistent playing time, because now you got Stanton back. And Stanton's been good since he's come back, but, yesterday was not a great day for him with 3 strikeouts. Which, you're going to see that. You're going to see that in some games where he just looks completely lost at the plate. Trent Grisham, he's kind of picked it up a little bit after slumping. But again, he's not going to be in the lineup every single day. And it just, you want to get Dominguez in the lineup. You got to get him in the lineup. You got to get him at bats. I want to see him get it going. Because this is the guy. Stanton can take over an offense, obviously, but like Stanton is getting, Stanton's getting older. I want to see one of these young guys take the bull by the horns and take over this offense when guys are struggling. And I feel like out of the three young guys that they have, or 4 young guys, I feel like Dominguez. I want to see Dominguez be that guy, but he's not in the lineup every single day. The young guys have been disappointing. Like, collectively, as we sit here on June 24th, I'm disappointed. And this was a big factor going into this Yankee season because of everything with the offseason, losing Soto. You go with plan B. The thing that was going to really drive this Yankee season to me, along with Aaron Judge, of course, being great, is the young guys. How are the young guys going to step up in bigger roles? And how are they going to produce this season? And to be honest, like, again, collectively, I'm looking for more. Doesn't help when Dominguez doesn't play every day. But, I want to see, Austin Wells is batting 220. I want to see him at least bat, 250? Can you get up to that? He's going to put together a good stretch. And, when we get to, the end of September, he's going to have, I think, a respectable stat line. But I want to see more out of Wells because, he's, again, put together good stretches, but we need consistency. We need consistency, and we don't have that. We are consistently inconsistent, this lineup. Like Jazz, looks great against the Orioles, looks great against, has good games against the Guardians, has the great game against the Red Sox, 3-run homer. And then there's games like yesterday where he's just non-existent, does nothing. But that just happens. But it happens. It's baseball. But Jazz has been very good since he's come back off the IL. He's been good. But yeah, Goldschmidt slowed down. Bellinger had 3 hits last night. He was really their only source. Him and Judge, they were on base a couple times. Judge walked in the 8th inning. But nobody else could do anything. And that's a problem. That is a problem. Because I think the Yankees' pitching situation will get corrected. They'll figure it out. The lineup is where I have major concerns. Because this is what's plagued the Yankees in the playoffs for years. Now, last year, I don't think it did so much because you had Stanton go off, you had Soto. Look, I know Judge wasn't great in the postseason, but just, he had a couple of homers, and, it's Aaron Judge. All right. And you had Gleyber Torres have a good postseason, and Volpe did have a good postseason too. The lineup was not the issue with the Yankees losing in the postseason last year. Like, hitting wise. Defensively, base running, you know where I'm going. This year could be a little bit different. This year, I could really see, because there's some teams that really can pitch. Yankees run into a team that's got good pitching. And you could very well see them end their season like they have in years past, where the lineup just doesn't hit. And we're seeing that in the regular season right now. So I think that I don't know where they're going to get it from, but there's going to have to be some kind of move that gets another bat in here. Because you can't go into the postseason with DJ LeMahieu occupying one of your infield spots. You just can't. I'm sorry. Can't. Can't do it. DJ LeMahieu could come off the bench. He could play once in a while. Play second or third, maybe even first base. Give guys days off when they need him. Come off the bench. But this guy cannot be our everyday second base. He can't. And he showed you some signs that, hey, he's a little bit better than what we would have thought, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. We are not getting the production that we need out of that. And I'm not saying you got to have a superstar there, but you could definitely find a player on the trade market that is better than DJ LeMahieu. You could 100% do that. And the Yankees are keeping tabs on Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. So getting him back. Now, that is a player that is better than DJ LeMahieu at this point. But it's just the fact that we're exploring getting somebody like him back that was already here. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, they need to get somebody else. They need to find a way to get another bat. But it's tough now because, again, I've said this a million times. You got all these teams that are so close to a third wild card spot. If they're within striking distance, they're not going to want to trade anybody. So then who do the Yankees go and get? And there's nobody they could bring up. Well, if you want to bring up Vivas, I'd have Vivas in the lineup over DJ LeMahieu. But I don't know. Actually, also with the Reds, go back to the Reds series for a second. Ellie De La Cruz, electrifying player. One of the most electrifying players in the league. Was a double shy of the cycle last night. Had an RBI triple, singled, opposite field homer from the right side. I mean, he's a very good player. Red's got a really good player with him. Wanted to give him some respect as well. And you know what? Look, the Reds, they're not a bad team. They're a couple games over 500 now. And Terry Francona, any team that's managed by Terry Francona is a respectable team. And I think the Reds, they knocked it out of the park by bringing this guy in to be their manager. I was surprised. I thought he retired. I thought he was done, but he still wants to manage. And he's managing a young team. They got some young talent on this team. And the Yankees are going to see one of their top prospects tonight. And it's a good time to make his debut because the Yankees are not hitting. So you got to like the Reds' chances tonight. Well, they got Carlos Rodon on the mound, the Yankees. So, Yankees got one of their best pitchers going. Chase Burns, 22 years old, making his first career start. And he's 7-3 this year in the minor leagues with a 1.77 ERA. So the Yankees will get to see him tonight. Let's see what happens. But Yankees just could not get anything going offensively. That you bring up Alan Winans, and he was pitching well in the minor leagues, but he just and he had a 9-pitch first inning, I believe, and was pitching well, going into the fourth inning, but then he gave up 4 runs, 5 hits. So didn't really put together a good outing that the Yankees would have liked, but that's where the Yankees are at right now. That's where they're at with their pitching situation with Ryan Yarbrough now going down. But Marcus Stroman, ladies and gentlemen, he will be coming back to the rotation. So we thought we saw the last of him. It's not the case. Not the case. And actually, what was that? Actually, no. We might just miss out because I actually will be going to the game on Friday against the A's. And actually, it's going to be firework night. So Friday... Friday looks like we'll be seeing Clark Schmidt. Okay, all right, against the A's. Actually, kind of excited for that game because the A's got a lot of good young players, Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson. So that should be an interesting game. Hopefully the Yankees can win though, and hit. Be nice. But otherwise I'm not going to want to see any fireworks. But can you believe that we're almost in July already? Time is going by fast. But yeah, no, it's just not a good way to get the series started off. And actually, another thing with last night's game, so Jose Trevino had a little, him and Judge had a little bit of a nice moment last night. Trevino came up to the plate with Judge's walk-up music, and Judge tipped his cap to him. I miss Trevi. I do. I thought Trevi, look, I know people had enough of him because he couldn't throw anybody out, but, he was an all-star in 2022. He was injured in 2023. And, last year, I think as a backup catcher, him and Austin Wells as a tandem, I thought was a good tandem to have. Even though, again, they weren't good at throwing people out. But, Trevino has a little bit of, and he's actually having a good season, has a little bit of pop in his bat. And I don't really I like JC Escara. He's definitely grown on me, but I don't like that. And it's actually how ironic because for years I was saying Yankees need all left-handed hitters, but you got three guys that can catch, and they're all left-handed: Wells, Escara, and Ben Rice. Like at least if you had Trevino, you have that, righty-lefty, but they don't have that. So, yeah. Good for Trevino though. He's doing well out there in Cincy. And we'll see him the next 2 days as the Yankees try to even up the series tonight with Carlos Rodon on the mound. So, yeah, baseball, New York baseball right now, not looking great. Mets and Yankees are both scuffling. Better days are ahead, everybody. Whether you're a Yankee fan or a Met fan, better days are ahead. Like, I saw a quote from somebody in New York sports media saying that the Mets could keep spiraling out of control and miss the playoffs. That's not happening. That's not happening. If anybody thinks that's going to happen to the Yankees too, that's also not happening. These two teams will be in the playoffs. Now, if you're both of those teams, you don't want any part of the wild card round. The Mets have had to play in it twice, and it was against, actually no, it was not against the same team. It was against the Padres, and they lost, and they had to come back against the Brewers, but they won that at least. Yankees have not played in the wild card series. They played in the wild card game a handful of times. I was at a couple of them. One of them went not so great. The other one was the greatest game I ever went to in my life. Both teams don't want any part of that because in a short series, anything can happen. You got to win 2 games. And Yankees against a team that's got good pitching. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that scenario. I don't want any part of it. But if the Yankees end up winning the division, yeah, that's great. But you could end up being in the wild card round anyways because, the Astros are right there. They could pass you, and then all of a sudden you're playing in the wild card round, and then you're a division winner and you get knocked out. So they got to straighten things out. Both teams got to straighten things out, but I really do believe they'll make moves at the deadline. Both of them will. They're going to get guys back healthy. The Mets more so right now. They got a couple guys out in the lineup in the rotation. Yankees are waiting on Luis Gil to come back, but the lineup is basically intact. But they need to make a move. They need to get a bat. They will make moves, and they'll both ride the ship. They'll both be in the postseason, and then it's all about what do they do in the postseason. So, talked a lot today with both teams actually. So there you go. If you're a Met fan, I hope you enjoyed my little soliloquy on them. And for the Yankee fans, I'm at a loss for words. But hey, still got to represent your team, man. Still got to represent your team through the good times and the bad. So hopefully they could get it done tonight, get a win, and then go for the series win tomorrow. We'll see. But I'll be back recapping the game tomorrow. I apologize for the no video yesterday. No, I got some plans for some other videos as well. A lot of basketball stuff that maybe do a show with Ben because we did have an NBA champion. We had the Thunder winning the NBA championship, NBA Finals concluded, winning in 7 games over the Pacers. Unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton got hurt very early on in that game, was dealing with a bit of a calf injury, and then unfortunately, like several other players, he unfortunately tore his Achilles, and now he's likely going to miss the entire season next year. So that was a huge blow to the Pacers. But what a year for them. What a run for them. Give a lot of credit to them. Rick Carlisle, that team really came together, and that was one of the most exciting stories in these playoffs. These playoffs are really good, and the Thunder, they get that championship. And there's criticism about it. Oh, it's a Mickey Mouse ring, whatever. This was a very good team this year. They deserve to win the championship, and they got a lot of young players. They got the Finals MVP, the scoring champion, and the MVP in the entire league, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is a very good team. And they could get back there next year, but it's hard to repeat. I had the Celtics repeating this year, but that obviously didn't happen. So Celtics made a trade. They traded Drew Holiday. We also had Kevin Durant get traded. He will be a Houston Rocket next year. So there's going to be an episode of that coming. I'm going to have Ben on. We'll break a lot of this stuff down. The Knicks are still looking for their next head coach. So, I mean, and I am not happy with how that search has been going. I really have not been happy about it. They should have just kept Thibodeau at this point, but that's just me. So make sure to look out for that. That'll come out at some point during the week. I'll try to schedule something with Ben to maybe get something out. And if not this week, maybe we'll get it out next week as well. But yeah, we'll keep up with the Yankees. If any football news comes out, actually, I just did an episode with Dami. I did an episode on his podcast, Sloppy Saturdays. We talked about Anthony Richardson, so that should be out. So go to his channel and make sure to check that out. My appearance on that on his show once again. But we did also get news that maybe I'll do a video on this separately at some point. But Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show that this is likely it for him, that this could be his final season in the NFL. So, yeah, and I'm trying to go to at least one of his games this year. So if that's the last time I get to see him play, I saw him play a couple times in my life. I want to see him at least play one more time. Hopefully he goes out with a bang. And the Steelers, have a good year, and maybe they go on a deep playoff run. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, but yeah, talked a little bit about some other sports there. So make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to go follow us on all the social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. And if you want to listen to us on the go, we're on Spotify and pretty much wherever you get your podcast. The link tree is in the description, so that'll have all my social media accounts. Well, the social media accounts are also there as well, but I also included the link tree. The link tree is on the channel. It's also on the on the other platforms on TikTok as well. So make sure to do that. And hope everybody, again, had a good weekend. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one. And I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.